Hey, Southern Nevada, let's talk about your tap water. Despite its hard, mineral-rich taste, your water meets or surpasses all federal Safe Drinking Water Act standards, so don't confuse hard water with its quality. Sourced from the Rocky Mountains, your water is analyzed more than 300,000 times a year. It's treated and monitored 24/7 by a team of technical experts. So get all the facts about your tap water at snwa.com. SNWA is a not-for-profit water agency. Just past midnight tonight, the Eastside Cannery will be imploded, and unlike other big casino implosions, this one isn't open to the public. Why is that? And why do Las Vegans love an implosion so much? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I talk with journalist Steve Krupe, aka the Implosion Guy, the only person to broadcast from the secure blast zone of every major Las Vegas implosion. And Steve is giving us an inside look at the ins and outs, mistakes, and mysteries of our city's biggest implosions. It's Wednesday, March 4th. I'm Sonia Cho Swanson, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Steve, how did you become the Implosion Guy?
I had no intention of ever becoming the Implosion Guy. As a TV news reporter back in the early 90s, I got assigned to the very first implosion, the Dunes Hotel in 1993. And then they just kept coming year after year. More buildings were being demolished in Las Vegas. And I was the guy that got the assignment for my station, along with others. And then people would recognize me around town, and they wouldn't necessarily remember my name, but they'd point at me and they'd say, "Hey, aren't you the Implosion Guy?"
Yeah.
Because they'd seen me on TV so many times covering the implosions. And now I just sort of ran with it, and it's become a hobby for me. I've sort of become the caretaker of many of the old videotapes and historical archives. And I've put it all together in a presentation. And, people are definitely interested in Las Vegas history.
Yeah. Well, speaking of implosions, there's one happening this week. Why do you think the Eastside Cannery is making such a small deal of their implosion?
I think it's a business decision. It costs a lot of money to put on a big spectacle, to incorporate fireworks and the, big media and public viewing areas. And there's liability issues, traffic issues. So to do it at 2 a.m. in the morning, when things are at their quietest, the wind is at the calmest, and the amount of disruption is at the lowest. Yeah, they might be waking up some people who live in the area, but as far as the impact on the community, that's the easiest and cheapest way to do it.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's kind of a low-key implosion on the DL. So as far as one can do so for an implosion, right?
Exactly. There have been a few like that. Of course, the big memorable ones, the ones that will always be in the pantheon of the great implosions in Las Vegas, those happened, in some cases in prime time, in the evening with fireworks and network TV broadcasts. There'll be none of that on this one. And the reason for that, again, is just economics. They want to keep it simple, and there's no real PR angle to this. It's kind of a downer, a property that sort of went bust because of the pandemic. There's just kind of some icky feelings associated with it, and I think they just want to move on, get the property sold off, and change the whole vibe of that neighborhood.
You know, that's a good point. It was kind of a downer. It's not really a celebration of some kind of like glorious history, maybe unlike, say, the Tropicana, right? Or the Dunes even, your first implosion, or Las Vegas's first implosion, really, right?
Yeah, that was the granddaddy of them all. That one was preceded by the biggest fireworks show in Las Vegas history in terms of the magnitude of the shells being launched and the 300,000 people that were out there on the Strip that night. They not only had the fireworks and then the implosion, but as part of the implosion, the building was loaded with 800 gallons of aviation fuel in order to light the building into a big wall of flame. And you could feel the heat roaring across Las Vegas Boulevard. People were a little concerned that they were going to get burned. It was so intense. And the reason they did that, I just recently learned in doing some of my research, was the implosion engineers. They were working with Steve Wynn, the owner of the property. It was opening night of Treasure Island Hotel, and Steve Wynn wanted a big spectacle to promote that. They were demolishing the dunes to make way for what became the Bellagio Hotel. The implosion engineers said, Steve, we know that you are starting to lose your eyesight because of a degenerative disease that Steve Wynn had been diagnosed with at that time. And they said, we've got an idea to help make this implosion more visible for you so that you can enjoy this spectacle. We're going to light the building on fire as it comes down.
Wow. That is so interesting. I had no idea that that was the reason why. And also that it was so, I don't know, incendiary, right?
Exactly. And yeah, nothing like that has been done in Las Vegas. There have been some other great implosions, but the 1993 Dunes implosion remains the granddaddy of them all. And I don't think it will ever be topped.
Steve, how many implosions has Las Vegas seen?
Well, no doubt about it, Las Vegas is the implosion capital of the world. There's no other city on the planet that has had so many name brand businesses demolished via this method. And depending on how you do the calculating, this one, the Eastside Cannery, is number 23.
Oh, wow.
So just think about that. I mean, you've had lots of famous names, the Stardust, the Dunes, the El Rancho, the Aladdin, the Landmark, the Sands. The list goes on and on and on. We just had the Tropicana in October of 2024, and now the Eastside Cannery, March of 2026. And so we're at 23, and I do not think we are over.
You know, I feel like when it comes to being a true Las Vegan, if there was like a Boy Scout merit badge for all the different things of, you know, parts of being a Las Vegan, seeing an implosion is one of the merit badges for sure. You know, it's like surviving your first summer, burning your hand on a seatbelt buckle, and then 3 is seeing an implosion.
It's funny. There's so many people that I run into, and they learn about my project, compiling all the history of implosions, and then they talk about their experiences of being at these events and how impactful it was, either as a little kid, their parents took them out there. They've got family photos. They've got videos that were taken with shaky camcorders before we had our 4K iPhones.
Right.
It's really quite a thing that's totally ingrained into the community the way it's not in any other place on the planet.
Yeah, it's a true Las Vegas cultural iconic moment, right?
You bet.
Okay, so Steve, tell us about like maybe the nuts and bolts of an implosion. Like what goes into it? How long does it take to prep? Like what kinds of explosives are used? You know, what are all the kind of pieces of an implosion?
The starting point of an implosion is the general contractor in charge of the demolition. And he does all the things like, you know, prepare the grounds and begin taking off the outer shell of the building. And then they bring in a separate company, a subcontractor. And it's a very particular subcontractor that has done all of the Las Vegas hotel implosions. It's a company called Controlled Demolition Incorporated. They're based in Phoenix, Maryland. And it's a company that was started back in the 1940s by a guy who would dig up tree stumps. And he figured out that the easiest way to get up a big tree stump out of the ground would be to blow it up with dynamite.
Oh my gosh.
And
it's a little overkill in my opinion, but you know.
Exactly. And it transitioned from, hey, if we can blow up a tree stump with dynamite, we can blow up a small building with dynamite. And then, we can blow up bridges and skyscrapers and even domed stadiums. And that's what this company has been doing now for decades. It's still a family business. Wow. And the current patriarch of that family, Mark Loiseau, he's here for the implosion this week. And his team goes in just a few days, literally before the implosion. They drill a bunch of holes in some key supports in the building. They insert explosives, either in the form of what amounts to dynamite or this plastic blasting cord that gets wrapped around the various support structures. That then gets wrapped in sort of a ballistic fabric that concentrates the explosion, makes sure that shrapnel doesn't blow out and injure anybody nearby. And then if you look at the building, you'll see there right now there's about 4 levels of the building where that black tarp is wrapped around the columns where they're inserting the explosives. And it only takes, in some cases, anywhere from 100 to 500 pounds of explosives to bring down a big tower. Wow. This one, due to its modern construction, doesn't involve a whole lot of really heavy reinforced pillars. It's a very sleek, modern design that doesn't take a lot of explosives to bring it down. What does most of the work is not the explosives themselves, but gravity. So once you shear off a few of those key supports, the weight of the building itself does the demolishing. Gravity sucks it down to the ground. It all gets compactified into a pile. A lot of that debris then gets recycled, carted off to various places and reused. So it's not like all this material is being squandered. It's really quite a process, and they have it down to a science.
That's fascinating. How do they make sure that no one gets hurt?
Well, people always ask me that over the years. Steve, have people been killed or injured in these implosions? And the answer to that is no human beings have ever been injured. And there have, however, been hundreds of fatalities.
Oh.
And that is the birds that roost in these structures after they've been abandoned. What used to be the Showboat Hotel, it was renamed the Castaways, sat vacant for many months before they imploded it. And thousands of pigeons and other birds set up their nests in there. And when the building exploded, oh my gosh, you could see the birds shooting out into the sky as they fled for safety. Gosh. A lot of them made it out, but many did not.
Yeah, I really shouldn't find this humorous. I know someone's going to come after me, but I'm just getting images of that game that was really popular, Angry Birds, where you like send the birds flying with the little slingshots. Boom. I'm sorry to the birds. Don't miss the return of New York's famed Gilbert and Sullivan Players to Las Vegas at the UNLV Performing Arts Center on Friday, March 6th at 7:30 p.m. The New York Times calls their production of The Mikado a comic gem. This version features characters from Victorian London's D'Oyly Carte Opera Company, presented in their imagined locale of Titipu, inspired by the art and architecture of Japan. The heart of the tale is a love story, but throw in a love triangle and the escapades ensue. And this production isn't your parents' version of The Mikado. This interpretation premiered in New York in 2017, and it represents a lot of work between the players and the Asian American theatrical community, the result of people listening to each other and working through problems and differences. The production starkly contrasts with historical treatments of The Mikado in several ways. For example, an original prologue gives the audience context for the work, highlighting Gilbert's influences from Japan. Tickets are selling fast, so get yours today at unlv.edu/PAC.
Hi, I'm David Plotz. I'm the CEO of CityCast, a podcast network that includes this show you're listening to, and also 12 other CityCasts in 12 other cities. And each one knows their city as well as your local team knows yours. So isn't it time we connected them? Don't you want to know how they're tackling their bike lane problems and housing challenges and sidewalk dog poop crises? That's why I'm hosting a new podcast called Your City Could Be Better. Because it could be. Every week, I'll chat with a different host in our CityCast network about what their cities are doing right and wrong, the weird things they're trying, and the surprising successes, so that we can all learn how to make our cities a little bit better. Listen to Your City Could Be Better on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Steve, you've said in other interviews before that each implosion has a personality, which I found so fascinating. So I would like to play a little game with you here. Let's name these personalities. So let's just say if there was an implosion that was the strong, silent type, maybe surprisingly impactful, which implosion was that in your memory of implosions?
The strong, silent type would be the Stardust implosion.
Ooh.
That was the biggest structure yet to be imploded in Las Vegas. A massive tower, and it came down very gracefully. And what made it so mysterious and silent was the eerie cloud of dust that then began to waft out from the demolition. People often wonder, is all this dust harmful or toxic? And basically the answer is no. They've removed pretty much 99.9% of anything harmful in those buildings in advance. So you might get a little coating of dust, but it's nothing that's going to choke you or harm you. But in that particular implosion, the strength came from the size of the implosion. But that weird, silent, eerie feeling afterwards as the particles hung in the air and the clouds literally chased the crowd down the street with police cruisers with their lights reflecting through the fog of the dust, that was really eerie and magical. And if you look at some of the video from that, it's like some sort of apocalyptic scene.
Wow. And really in keeping with the name, too, the Stardust.
Yeah, the only hotel with the word dust in it. It caused the biggest dust cloud.
And so the next category then, which implosion was the messy biatch who broadcast their drama on every social media channel, very dramatic, very messy. Maybe there were some mistakes in the implosion, unexpected twists and turns. Which implosion was that one?
Yeah, that would have to be the Hacienda Hotel.
Okay.
And the Hacienda Hotel was New Year's Eve, 1996.
Ooh.
It's the only one that was broadcast live on network TV. Fox TV had a special hosted by Sinbad. Michael Buffer did his countdown to the implosion live on TV. And this was another implosion where the building was loaded with aviation fuel. So there were fireworks, and then the wall of flame erupted with all this aviation fuel. And so you used the word messy. This was the messiest, noisiest of the implosions, and they wanted to make it a big spectacle. The problem was they overdid it. The debris and the cloud was so thick that the spectators, including the people on TV, could barely see the building collapsing.
Oh, no.
And then when the cloud finally cleared, they realized, part of the building was still standing.
Oh, no.
And it was a very strongly reinforced stairwell elevator column that had remained standing, maybe no more than 10% of the whole building, but it was still pretty obvious that the implosion did not exactly go off without a hitch. And so they had to use traditional wrecking ball efforts the next day to bring down the rest of the building.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, a little bit of a womp womp with that one. Not so complete of an implosion there. All right, last category. Which implosion was the asshole who stole your parking spot in Chinatown? An implosion that kind of stole the spotlight, maybe wasn't supposed to be such a big deal, but ended up becoming a big deal in the end.
There's a lot of competition for that.
You can name a couple if you'd like. I mean, there are several people who have stolen my spot in parking lot and Chinatown parking lots. Let's be real.
I think it's a tie between the Landmark Hotel, which was that big spaceship saucer alien type of building.
Mars Attacks.
That was in Mars Attacks, exactly. And they made it look so phony in Mars Attacks. It looks like it's a special effect, but it's the real building that they photographed with, big cameras.
Fun fact, the director Tim Burton got footage of that for the movie, which was, honestly, it's one of my favorite Vegas movies of all time.
Right. But when that saucer section hit the ground, I was standing so close, it felt like an earthquake. We had to hang on to things.
Wow.
Because the ground vibrated so hard. So that's the one that really rocked me to the core the most. But the other implosion that was really great and exciting that nobody talks about was the Frontier. And that land still sits vacant to this day, but they demolished it with all sorts of great pyrotechnic effects. There was an animated dynamite plunger using fireworks that was projected or animated on the side of the building with a countdown, and then the plunger went down, and then the building erupted. And we had a dozen different cameras all around the building, including mounted to the building itself. And due to the sort of the stumpy architectural design of that building, it was the loudest of all of the implosions. It took more dynamite pound for pound to bring that structure down, even though it was very short compared to the towers that have gone up around it. That was a really fun one to watch because it was just really beautifully done. They had kept the glass on the exterior of the hotel. A lot of the implosions, they stripped the building of everything, and it's just the frame that's left. And that's the situation with the Cannery this week. There's really nothing except the bones, the bare bones of the building to bring down. But with the Frontier, it was all there, the shiny glass, and when that shattered in the implosion, it was really fun to watch.
That's wild. It feels like when it comes to casinos, there are two kinds of like bookend parties that are very unique to Las Vegas. There's the topping off party where you go to like the very top floor, the rooftop of a casino when it's being built. And that's kind of like all the bigwigs celebrating, right? The completion of a casino being built. And then there's the Implosion party, which is like for the people. It's for the entirety of Las Vegas. Everyone gets to come and watch the slow, beautiful destruction of a landmark, right, in our city. I'm just curious, why do you think Las Vegans love Implosion so much?
Well, and the same reason that I love big fireworks shows. I mean, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nerdy thing, sure, to be witnessing something like this, but it is fun, and it's all in good fun. And it, even though people complain that we've lost sort of this nostalgic past of Las Vegas, and wouldn't it be great to have the old Dunes Hotel back, or whatever other property has been demolished to make way for something new and shiny. Well, I totally disagree. I don't think there's anybody out there today that would say, yeah, let's get rid of Bellagio and return to what was there before. The Dunes had its time. And now, yeah, Bellagio is better. There's no comparison, and nobody is complaining that we have the Bellagio on the Las Vegas Strip with its fountains and its,
the Bellagio is beloved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this argument of, Las Vegas is throwing away its history, I think that's a real crock. I think for the most part, we've done it right. There's certain things that should have been preserved, like that marquee, that neon marquee at the Dunes Hotel. Oh, the folks at the Neon Museum, they are just beside themselves with, over the way things were treated back in the 90s and early 2000s. At least now we have more of a progressive mindset where, yes, we do want to preserve a little bit of that Las Vegas history. We'll take those precious signs out and restore them, refurbish them, put them in the Neon Museum, for example.
Or like at the Tropicana, the glass ceiling, right? That beautiful stained glass ceiling display they had, right?
Absolutely. But I'd be willing to bet that 10 years from now, when the stadium is done and they've built whatever they're going to build there on that property at the corner of Tropicana and the Boulevard, nobody's going to say, oh, we wish we had the old Tropicana back because, well, yes, the stained glass was a unique feature. The rest of the property, not so memorable.
Well, I'm glad you brought up nostalgia, because I do kind of feel like sometimes there are maybe two camps in Las Vegas where it's like team implosions or team nostalgia. But I wonder, maybe you think this as well, but I wonder if implosions and nostalgia can kind of coexist,
Oh, absolutely. I think you can do it right. You can preserve history. You can give people a reason why the implosion is a good thing, either for the economy or just the general beauty of Las Vegas, because in some cases you're getting rid of a real eyesore. I would use the El Rancho Hotel as an example. That was one of the ugliest buildings ever constructed in Las Vegas. And it sat vacant for 9 years after it went out of business while they tried to figure out what they were going to put there. And now the Fontainebleau Hotel is there. And that took a long time, but if you've set foot inside the Fontainebleau, that is pretty impressive.
It is a gorgeous space.
Absolutely. And no one in their right mind would say, for nostalgic reasons, that we should have the El Rancho back in that spot.
Fair enough. Well, before we wrap, Steve, are there any implosion fun facts that you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Well, the one that sticks with me the most is the implosion of the Aladdin Hotel, because that's one where they didn't want to just demolish the whole property. They wanted to just bring the tower down, and they wanted to preserve the Aladdin Theater for the Performing Arts. It's a 7,000-seat theater. Many famous rock bands have performed there over the years, but it was directly attached to the Aladdin Tower. And so they needed to implode it without harming the theater. And so it was the most graceful and magical of all the implosions, because they brought it down with such technical precision. It almost looks like it's happening in slow motion. When you watch video in real time, you think that's a slow motion shot. No, that's really how gently the building came down so as not to harm the theater that was attached to that structure. It went off without a hitch.
Wow.
It was perfect. It was one of the only implosions that was done in the daylight just before sunset. And it really had a great magical feel to the whole thing. And the fact that it was named Aladdin sort of conjures up sort of a mystical, magical feeling to begin with.
Yeah.
And by far, that was my favorite of all the implosions.
Oh, wow. Steve, I would never think to put gentle and implosion in the same sentence, but you have really changed my thinking on implosions. I'm hoping I can get out to the next one and celebrate with the rest of Las Vegas. Thank you so much for joining us today, Steve.
Great talking with you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, go tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. Don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast Las Vegas neighbor at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care.